Harry Potter is definitely a little closer to home. And there's a lot of fun magic, things that are happening, but it's not quite as dystopian, I would say, as the Star Wars universe. I mean, obviously there's like Voldemort, but that's all in the past, right? That they figured all that out. So it's
and awesome. That's the reason why my universe is My Little Pony.
Welcome to Power Platform Connections, the show celebrating our community members. In this episode, we're going to go with the flow, featuring a special Power Automate guest. My name is David Warner. I'm a community program manager with Microsoft. And with me today, my co-host and Power Automate enthusiast who loves him some flows from his head to his toes, Hugo Bernier.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hugo Bernier. I'm the proof that you don't have to be intelligent to be successful. And to talk about someone who's really intelligent and really successful, I'd like to introduce you to a special guest, Stephen Siciliano. Did I say it right?
Oh yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, intelligent and successful. That's a pretty high bar, but I'll see if we can live up to that together here.
Awesome, Stephen. Thanks for joining us today. Very exciting. In fact, you are our first official Microsoft guest on the show, so we really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy day to spend with us in the community. I think that no introduction is needed. Obviously, VP of Power Automate. But why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to those who are just starting to get to know you?
Sure, yeah. So I lead the Power Automate product and engineering teams here at Microsoft. I've been working on Power Automate for a little while now. Actually, if you've been around for a while, you may remember we used to call it Microsoft Flow. So I was actually part of the team that created Microsoft Flow way back in 2016. So I've been working in the automation space for a few years now. I guess that's 7-ish years or so. So it's been a lot of fun. We've seen a lot of change in the industry. A lot of new things have been happening, especially back in 2020. We acquired a company called Softomotive and we rebranded to Power Automate. So we're part of this broader Power Platform story. Before that, I did a startup for a little while, worked on Office, worked on Azure. So I've been in the Microsoft space for quite some time. So yeah, looking forward to chatting here today.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll get into some AI, some deep stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we always start with a little bit of the personal side, because as we start getting back in person, folks want to be able to come up and engage in a conversation with you. And sometimes the tech is just a little bit not enough, right? So we had you fill out a form and tell us a little bit about the things that you love and that are some of your favorites. One of them I think is going to resonate with most of the community is Star Wars. So it was your favorite movie. One of the Star Wars movies was your favorite movie. But you also actually have done the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser out in Disney World, right? So I've never done it. I'm actually curious about it. I'm sure Hugo, being a fellow alien, is also curious about it. So tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cliche, out of this world, but no, seriously, it was a really, really immersive experience. I don't think I've seen anything quite like it before. It's a little bit of Westworld, a little bit of a video game, a little bit of like live community theater with improv. So when you go, I won't spoil it too much, but there's lots of interactivity, much more than you would necessarily expect in any other themed experience you've ever done, probably in your life. They have kind of a hybrid digital and in-person experience. So there's an application which interacts with all the digital systems that they have inside of the Star Cruiser. Plus there's actors, cast members, right, who actually like learn your names and give you missions and like know and remember things about you as you kind of go through your journey with the kind of through this little Star Wars Star Cruiser for 2 days. So I mean, I've really never had any experience that approximates that. People say, hey, it's something that, maybe is very expensive. It is very expensive. I'll be candid. You can go online and look at the prices, but it's all inclusive. You get two full nights, lots of good food, lots of interactivity. I'd say if you're a Star Wars enthusiast and you're interested in doing it, I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you're not interested in Star Wars, probably not for you.
Right. Yeah, it might not be the best investment in your trip, right?
Yes.
But and you mentioned, I looked up the pricing too for my family when we were out there for the Power Platform Conference. And I think that like for 2 kids, it probably was not the best investment that I could have made. And I didn't do it yet. But you get 4 people together, then it's not so bad. Like you said, it's actually affordable as a full on, like you said, all-inclusive experience. I did read that you really got to be willing to immerse yourself, like you said, though, like dress up, play the part. What was your choice of costume or character?
Yes. So I went with kind of the Han Solo style. So, just got a white Henley shirt and, a little vest and a gold vest. And my brothers went a little more all in. They got, the official like Jedi robes and, went and did that with some kind of more immersiveness, but it's really up to you. Like some people go like really, really specific costumes. Some people have a little bit more, basic costumes, but really it's more of you just have to be willing to suspend disbelief and enjoy it. Obviously don't go in a t-shirt and shorts, that's not going to be fun, but you don't have to put on face paint, to enjoy it.
I mean, David and I are not really known for being willing to make fun of ourselves ever at conferences or things like that.
Yeah, wouldn't be willing to dress up in a dragon costume at all again, a second time. Very cool. Yeah, it's always been fascinating to me doing something like that because it is, like you said, you got to suspend belief and be willing to kind of immerse yourself just to have fun and enjoy it and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, big Star Wars fan. Your favorite movie was one of the Star Wars and the experience out in Florida. But you did say that the movie universe you most would want to live in is Harry Potter. So where did that, gap come? I would expect Star Wars, but then you kind of diverted to Harry Potter. What's the story behind that? I
mean, I would say like as fun as Star Wars is, it's kind of like a dystopian universe in a sense. Things aren't going well in Star Wars. I don't know if y'all remember, but there was like this empire and then there was a lot of bad things. So in terms of like, where would one kind of feel more at home with, I think, Harry Potter is definitely a little closer to home. And, there's a lot of fun magic, things that are happening, but it's not quite as dystopian, I would say, as the Star Wars universe. I mean, obviously there's like Voldemort, but that's all in the past, right? That they figured all that out. So it's
and that's the reason why my universe is My Little Pony.
Now, in terms of wanting to visit a real place, you actually, this one threw me for a loop. I've never seen anybody say this before. You want to go to the moon.
Yes. So I was chatting with my girlfriend about this the other day, and I would say it has to be like relatively safe. So I'm not like, oh, I want to be an Apollo astronaut and, get on top of a Saturn V that, may or may not blow up. But I do think that in our lifetimes, I really think that there's a good possibility that space travel and, going to the moon and these types of things, it's likely to be feasible. And, it's not like, obviously it's not without any risk, but I do think that as we get more and more space economy and commercial involvement in space, and, there's all of these companies that are making more and more, I think it's something that is, should be achievable, while we're in our lifetime. So yeah, I would love to go to the moon. I think it would be just fascinating because people have been there, but like most of the moon's surface has been untouched for billions of years since it was created. And it just seems like a deeply like fascinating experience to go somewhere like that and to experience a completely alien world, right? I mean, it's like the gravity is different. There's no atmosphere. Just like walking on the moon would feel so different from walking on Earth. Love to experience that. Now, of course, the nice thing is the moon is also only 3 days away, so you're not talking like going to Mars or Jupiter or somewhere else.
Yeah, you had mentioned the travel and risk. I have a 17-year-old that just started driving, so I think I'd probably opt for the moon instead of going to the store with him. So I think there's less risk there. Exactly. I was curious though. You've already kind of addressed this, but like what you would want to do there, because it's like one of those things where I'd love to go visit such and such. It's got a fantastic resort or lots of things to do. not a whole lot to do at the moon, right? So I was curious, is it a bucket list thing, or is it, I want to go to the moon and I want to tee off, right, with a golf club or something like that, just to see how it works?
Yeah, playing some sort of sports, throwing balls, and just running, right? Like I like to run, here on Earth, but it'd be so different on the, just like the cadence, the way that you jog is just different in 1/6 of a G as opposed to, the 9.8 meters per second squared we have here. So it's I just think the whole experience would be just very, very different than anything we experience here.
Yeah, or that we could easily even experience. You could try to simulate it, but it's still just not the same, right? It's obviously not authentic. So very cool. You're going to be traveling here soon, coming up in May to Germany. You're going to be keynoting the European Power Platform Conference. Excited for that. Tell us a little bit about that, the plans there.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to be able to travel to Germany and present at the conference. What I'll be talking about is certainly the Power Platform, a lot of the new things, new innovations that we have. So I don't want to spoil the full details, but I can certainly tell you there's been a lot of exciting innovation that we've had in the AI space over the past few months, and there's a lot more that's coming. That will be coming, as we get further into the year. Some examples in terms of what we've already announced. We have, for example, the ability to use natural language to describe a flow. So I can type a sentence and I can get a flow created from that sentence. At the same time, I can also now, and we just announced this 1 week ago, I can actually use GPT as an action inside of my Power Automate flows and inside of my Power Apps that I'm building. So if I want to be able to, automatically generate a response to an email based on the context of I have a customer support email that comes in. I can join that customer data in, put that send it to ChatGPT, get an answer back, and then I can use that in my flow. So literally now anybody building a flow will be able to use kind of the full power of these generative large language models as a building block inside the automations that they're running. So I think this type of thing, this focus, I'm sure everybody has seen the announcements with the new Bing, and there's lots and lots of exciting things coming in the next few months. That's going to be a big focus of the conversations we'll be having, in the coming months. And of course, I'll definitely spend a lot of time on that in the upcoming conference.
I was showing one of my friends some of the new AI features in Bing, and one of the things that I described, the Bing came back and said, "I'm sorry, that must be very frustrating for you." And it was absolutely within context. And my friend was a little scared at first because it was like, well, this is very eerie that it understands that this should be a scary thing. And invariably the question comes up that, well, how long before AI takes over? And I'm sure this is something that you take into consideration when you're adding AI features into the products. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah. So responsible AI is one of the most important things that we think about whenever we're building these features, because we want to make sure that people not only feel comfortable with what they're doing, but they also understand what's happening and that they feel like they have a good picture of how it works and how the pieces fit together. So if we take one example with the new GPT feature that we have inside of Power Automate, it can generate that response, but what we actually recommend right inside of the flow experience is that you add a human approval step after the AI generates some text. And the reason we do that is because, hey, you don't know necessarily what that AI is going to say. It's probabilistic, right? It's not deterministic. So you don't know upfront exactly what it's going to say, exactly what it's going to do. So we actually have inside of the flow checker, whenever you add that GPT action, recommends adding that approval step so that way a human can look at it. Now you may wonder, hey, if a human is going to have to review every single response, are you actually saving time? But the answer to that is very, very much yes, because the human doesn't have to type the response, right? It's an assistant. We talk about this kind of as a co-pilot. That's the language that we've been using a lot as Microsoft, where this can assist people with their jobs. It can help people be more efficient. And if it can save you 5 minutes of typing, that is really, really useful. But that doesn't mean that you want to just let the bot run on its own and do its own thing and you never have a human pay attention or look at it or deal with it. So a lot of responsible AI is finding the balance where you can still leverage the capabilities and the power of this AI copilot, but it assists, it helps, it doesn't replace what somebody is doing. And that's the philosophy we have both for the new capabilities with GPT, as well as some of the capabilities we've had for a while, like with the ability to use natural language to define a flow. It's not like it just builds and runs a flow and you never see it again. It shows you what it's doing. It shows you the steps that it's building, the data, all that information as you go through and build out the automation.
That's fantastic. And one of the things I have to say, ever since I started using, Power Automate, but it was Flow back then, I started seeing, it was kind of like the Matrix, right? Where everything became a Power Automate workflow for me. I was seeing the world through Power Automate. I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing, but in your mind, what are some of the reasons why people don't get started with Power Automate? Because it's so amazing.
Yeah, I think the thing with Power Automate is it's like any other new tool. It takes a little bit of time just to learn what it is it can do and how to do it. So I'm sure if you take something like Excel, PowerPoint, people take a little while to learn how Excel works, right? Sure, anybody can start Excel and fill in a list of 5 items. But if you want to add columns, if you want to use formulas, if you want to use tables, those are things that require a little bit of time to just go in and think about, how does this work? How does this fit together with the other things that I know about this program? So it's the same type of thing with Power Automate, and this is really true for the whole Power Platform, where yes, can anybody get started? Definitely. But it does take a little bit of time just for people to learn, to see how the pieces fit together, to understand the boundaries, as well as to understand what are the actual day-to-day use cases, the practical things that I'm going to do, that I'm going to use this for. That isn't necessarily immediately apparent when you show up at the Power Platform for the first time. So we do things, we have templates, we have other ways for people to get started. But this is really the reason why we are focusing on these new natural language capabilities, these Copilot capabilities, is because once you have an idea of what you want, today, what you have to do is you either have to find a template or you have to walk through the flow experience to build out each step. But now what you can do is you can literally just type a sentence that says what you want to do, so it reduces that barrier. We talk about it going from what today is a low-code experience to in the future is literally a no-code. 0 lines of code. It's just an English sentence. That's all you need to be able to build out your automation. So I think in terms of why people aren't necessarily getting started, it's because it does take a learning. There's a little bit of a barrier there. Again, we're not talking about, you don't have to go to take a class. You don't have to do these complex things, but it still requires energy. And, we're all so busy. We all have such little time in our days that even a small amount of time to learn how something works can sometimes be too much. So that's something that we're, looking forward to change as we add more and more of these natural language capabilities.
Sometimes just having a greater landscape of what the technology can be used for is useful. I think there's tons of life hacks, right? That we see this technology, think of things like Word and Excel in their original versions or Power Platform in its original versions. The initial intent for all this stuff is always business. But there's so much, like you said, practical ways to use it beyond just business, life hacks, whether it's overlapping circles of business and life, or just simply using it in a way that's going to make your personal life a little bit easier. And then that can sometimes lead the mind down to, well, if I can do that for my personal life, then wait a second, I could actually take advantage of that concept and apply it back here into the business, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're right. Folks sometimes can come in and maybe have a little bit of a tunnel vision on a technology, and it's just got to broaden that perspective and understand that there's a greater landscape than maybe the initial thought of what the technology could be used for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a great way to think about it.
Stephen, one of the things that's beautiful about using Power Automate is, a developer could say, no big deal. I can hard code calling these APIs. I can make all these changes. But the value of Power Automate is to be able to adapt quickly to changing business needs. As you're figuring out your business rules, your business process, to be able to quickly make changes to that. As the VP of Power Automate, you obviously eat, sleep, drink, and dream about Power Automate all the time, or at least I hope so. Otherwise, I don't want to be the only one that does that. But can we talk about maybe some of the ways that people should be using Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop that you'd love for people to know about, and they just don't seem to have thought about it?
Yeah. So I would say the number one simple scenario I like to talk about is just working with websites, pulling data from websites, filling data in websites. I was chatting with a customer account team just last week, and they were saying that, there's this website that their local government has for like booking slots on a playing field, and they want their children to be able to like book the playing field. I don't know if it was soccer or may have been something else, but the slots are always filling up. So what they actually built, they built this in just a few minutes really, is a Power Automate desktop flow that goes to the website, checks the status to see if there's any available slots, and if there is an available slot, we'll attempt to book it. And that was something maybe you would have taken 5 minutes to do every single day. But now they can just hit a button, or if they really wanted to, they could run it on a schedule. I don't think they run it automatically, but they can hit a button and it'll just go through those few steps, check on it, and then fill the information in really quickly if a slot becomes available. So I am not recommending you do this to take advantage of getting Ticketmaster tickets or something like that. But what I am saying is, there's so many different scenarios that you and I, that all of us do on just working with websites. And websites don't have, for the most part, an API that is easy to use, that you can integrate with to send and receive information. What websites do have is, of course, they have a UI. You can use keyboard, you can use mouse, you can use your desktop computer to be able to pull information from them and send information to them. And that's a type of thing that you can do with Power Automate Desktop. So some of the new things that we have coming with AI will, of course, make that even more intelligent, make it more resilient, be able to bring in, even the ability to generate and to receive text and those types of things. But definitely, if there's one scenario I'd recommend thinking about is there some website you go to every day and you pull information from that website maybe, or you fill something in that website? Guess what? You can have Power Automate Desktop do that for you with just the click of a button.
I think that's a great point, because there's some customers that we'll talk to and they'll say, yeah, we'd love to get started on our automation process, but we have all these legacy systems that we're not going to get to migrate for another 3 years, and we won't have APIs ready for another 3 years. So we'll talk to you back, then in 3 years from now. And what I'd love to talk about is to say, well, let's abstract this. Let's keep that, kind of make that invisible to your users so that we can start changing the automation. Right now, we use Power Automate Desktop, but later when APIs or custom connectors become available for you, you can start consuming those instead.
Exactly.
One question that I'd love to talk to you about is, as we're talking about Power Automate Desktop, we're also introducing the concept of robotic employees. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are talking about, well, robotic employees are now taking the jobs away from people. And I think it's the wrong way to look at using robotic employees, because robotic employees allow people to focus on adding value, while some of the more mundane work kind of is taken care of automatically by some of the processes. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great point. And when we think about automation, internally is just educational piece. We talk about attended automation and unattended automation. Attended automation is the scenario that I was just describing, where I hit a button and then it goes off and it runs something on my machine, right? Filling in a website. That's attended because I'm sitting right there. I do it. The other type of automation is unattended. That's going to run in the background. Usually, it's going to run on a virtual machine somewhere. We like that virtual machine to be in Azure, but it doesn't have to be. It could be on premises. It could be in AWS or whatever you'd like to have it. But that virtual machine is going to run programs that have a task that you've asked that robot to do. So that could be something as simple as filling in information into SAP, or pulling information from a legacy mainframe application and sending it to a more modern system. These are the types of things that a human can, and in many cases is doing today on their own PC. They are opening up windows with 2 different applications and copying information from here and sending it here, copy pasting, that type of thing. And here's the thing. We as people, we don't want to do that with our lives, right? We don't want to do this uncreative task of copy and pasting, or in many cases, copy paste doesn't even work. So they literally have to retype it, looking on one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. Like that's a thing that many people are doing. However, there's an opportunity now for an unattended automation to do that type of work, to make that person not have to do that manual piece of the job. But very rarely, if ever, is that somebody's entire job, right? That's just a task that they have to do as a part of their job. If you can take those tasks that are happening and summed across all of those people, and you can offload that to robots that can do that work on their behalf, guess what? Those people can now be more productive, and they can focus on tasks where they can actually use a little bit of strategic thinking, a little bit of creativity, a little bit of emotional connection. These things are what we as humans do. And as much as GPT tries to simulate it, it's not actually creative.
Mhm.
Like AI can't actually be creative. It can emulate creativity. It can't actually build emotional connections. It can emulate. So we as people, we will always have a position there. So I don't think that I foresee, automation, unattended robots, these workers replacing a lot of people with, their jobs. I see it more as a supplement that can really help people to be more efficient and focus on the things that they enjoy doing, that they're good at. Because the other thing is, we as people, if we have to do the same thing over and over again, it's actually, we're not very reliable.
No.
Right? There are cases where it's like, oh, I put the decimal place one place off, and the company loses $1 million because instead of typing 100,000, I typed 1 million, right? Like those types of things, they really do happen. And a robot is not going to fail like that. Now, I'm not going to say that robots never fail, because a robot is only as good as what you've taught it to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you haven't taught it to handle a specific case, the robot isn't going to be able to do it. It doesn't, because again, the robot doesn't have creativity. It doesn't have problem solving. It can't go and do those things independently. But a robot is never going to get tired and put the decimal place in the wrong place, or transpose 2 letters in a name, and you end up invoicing the wrong person. Like that's not the type of thing that a robot does.
And that reminds me, I need to give you my expense report, but don't worry, trust me, the decimal place will be in the right place. It really was $1 million to go to Starbucks. It's all good. No, I completely agree though, because like I think that people kind of look at it with the fear factor of, oh my goodness, this is going to take over my job. But I think everybody who works in a technology or in an industry where this can support them, it's probably busy, right? Like you said, we're not just sitting around going, man, I wish I had more work to do. No, typically we're overloaded and we want more time to do more of the work we enjoy. So your reference is spot on. And I think understanding that, yeah, you're right. It's like there isn't a perfection in the AI, right? So that's where the responsible AI comes in. Hugo and I were working with GPT last week, I think, doing some testing around telling it, hey, we'd like to see a schedule. How can you create a schedule for this or for that or for April? And we gave it a whole bunch of rules to follow, which it did very well for April 2022. We had to be very verbose and say, okay, no. So we actually mean this coming April, not last year, right? And so there's some of that it just doesn't quite understand from a variety of areas. As smart as it may be, that's where, like you said, that responsible AI comes in.
Absolutely.
We were at the Power Platform conference. We had some product group folks that said, sometimes we forget that people who are here are people who are building their entire businesses on our products or making business decisions based on our product. And that was a humbling experience, I think. You
always talk about the community and the power of the community, what inspires you. You want to leave us with a little bit on what inspires you each day to keep supporting and creating software for this community?
Yeah, absolutely. So in one level, there's just so many people that are learning, that are growing, that are changing their careers because of the Power Platform, because of Power Automate. And I think that this is something that we didn't necessarily know way back in 2016 when we first started Microsoft Flow, just the impact that we would have on the world, on what people do every single day. And for me, it really became real when we went to the Power Platform conference back last year, and people would just come up to me and say, hey, I've had no technical background. I didn't know anything about computers, but I saw some YouTube videos about what Power Automate specifically can do. And now it is literally my job for my company. I am the person who automates everything inside my organization. And that is incredibly inspiring because, this isn't somebody who has a degree in computer science. This is the true essence of a low-code platform, is being able to help people who just have business problems they want to solve. They just have the day-to-day that they want to be a little bit better. And the Power Platform can make those jobs, it can make those opportunities. So for those of you out there who have found their way into this community, And also the people who've actually built the YouTube content that has inspired this, that is something that I'm incredibly grateful for, because it's only because of the community that we can even get more people into the community in the first place. It's because of all the content out there, all the scenarios, all the YouTube videos, all those walkthroughs, that people discover this and grow and really transform the way that they do their jobs, or just get completely new jobs, right? People who come from completely different walks of life end up happening to be super successful inside of the Power Platform. So that's really what inspires me to get up every day and to come to work and to build a platform that's really, really available for all the people out there.
That's awesome. Well, Stephen, thank you for taking some time today to spend with us and the community. Really appreciate it. We know you're busy. Everybody check and make sure you follow Stephen on Twitter. And again, he's going to be in Germany at the Collab Summit in May, keynoting. So if you're near or want to take a trip, check it out. Stephen, thanks for visiting with us today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was an awesome conversation with VP at Power Automate, Stephen Siciliano. Now it's time for us to cover all the awesome blogs, articles, and information that you've all been sharing over the past week. Remember, if you would like us to include it on the episode, make sure you use Power Platform Connects as your hashtag in Twitter or LinkedIn, and we'll make sure to get it included. Hugo, what do we got?
All right, so Power Platform Connections was inspired by something that our colleagues are doing on a weekly basis called the PnP Weekly, and that's for Patterns and Practices Weekly. PnP Weekly is a very special show that is run by our colleagues Vesa Juvonen and Waldek Masterkas, and they've been doing this show on a weekly basis. That's why it's called PnP Weekly, and they've been doing it for 200 episodes. And it was very much the inspiration for us to do the Power Platform Connections. So I'd like to celebrate my colleagues, Waldek and Vesa, and they had a very special guest who was not a guest this time. I guess he was the host of the show, Sébastien Nevers. And they talked about really their journey over the last 200 episodes, and they talked about their first episode and how rough it was, very much like ours are right now.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I don't know that I can say their last names as elegant as you are, Hugo, so I'll just refer to them as Vesa, Waldek, and Seb, but they are fantastic collaborators with us. Obviously, you and I were collaborating with Vesa and Waldek and Seb well before we joined Microsoft. So this is a really great partnership to see how we're working together on things. We support each other in the samples and the community calls. Really excited for these gentlemen and all the great work and amplification of the community that they've done. Thank you all for being who you are.
And on a special note, it was Vesa's 6,000th day at Microsoft last week, which is brilliant. Our next article is by Maximilian Mueller, and where he talks about a SharePoint form or custom SharePoint form backup. So when you're building custom forms in SharePoint lists using the Power Platform, you can use the basic versioning that's available in Power Apps itself. And that allows you to quickly go back and undo unwanted changes and things like that. But what if you want to take the form and you want to back it up, or you want to deploy it between environments? You know, all the forms can only be created in the default environment. But in the article that Maximilian is showing us actually how to access the built-in version of the custom form, how to export the custom form as a package, and how to restore the form into a SharePoint list. So it's a fantastic article, and I certainly could have used this a few weeks ago. Our next article is something that Victor Dantas has provided us. It is Live in 5 with Power Lady Christine Kolodziejski presenting Power Apps Extreme Makeover. It's a lesson from Zero to Heroes. Christine has been a fantastic contributor in the community, and she's really made a name for herself with very creative ways to brand Power Apps and Power Pages with custom CSS, custom animations, and things like that.
It's really been exciting to see the work that Christine's been doing in the community, really with taking a fresh perspective on how some of the capabilities of Power Apps may have felt a little bit like you were not able to accomplish some things, but now obviously taking into consideration the understanding of how to integrate things like CSS. When you think about things like animation, they don't all have to be JavaScript driven. CSS has a ton of animatable properties, pseudo attributes, and ways in which you can create a beautiful array of stories by way of the animation of your applications and apps. So Really great job. Christina's been rocking it in the community and been sharing the knowledge via YouTube, conferences. I'm sure she's going to be at some coming up here soon as well. So we're excited to continue to see her going further and further.
Our next article was also brought to us by Victor Dantas, and he's highlighting a YouTube video by Danish Naglikar on ChatGPT Control. So this is a PCF control that you can embed into your applications, into your Power Apps applications, to consume ChatGPT in model-driven apps. And the video comes with the source control for the control. So if you want to learn how to build a PCF control, or if you really want to see how the control was implemented, you can go to the source code in GitHub and take advantage of that. Or you can use a PCF control already built. Our next article is by Kat Schneider, and for those of you who don't know Kat Schneider, she's also known as one of the T-Rexes at the Power Platform Conference. And Kat has started with her blog. She has a few articles on her blog right now. And this article is about color data. And so colors can be very tricky things to deal with. It's fortunately one of Kat's favorite topics to explore. And so if you've ever looked at the Microsoft documentation on the explanation of color, sometimes it leaves a little bit to be desired. And so Kat actually lists a lot of resources, lots of accessibility tips, and she digs deeper into some of the RGBA functions that are available for dealing with colors.
Yeah, and Kat's really been doing a great job of blogging here. I mean, she has been doing as much as she can in the community. I love the fact that she has her badges down at the bottom of her blog, a way to highlight all of the work that she's been doing in the community. And don't be afraid to get started. Like, reach out to Kat. She's an awesome collaborator. If you're interested in getting started with your own blog, sometimes you think, well, who's going to read my blog, right? No one even knows it exists. And that's true at first. But the more you continue to blog and share it on social media, hashtag Power Platform Connects, it'll get featured, and then you'll have more and more readers. And Hugo talks about doing blogs as a favor to himself. Just I learned something, I want to have it all in one space, I want to write it down. Look at it as doing that way. And as other people start consuming it and benefiting by it, then you'll get other opportunities to collaborate and ideas to blog about. So great job, Kat. Keep up the great work.
And finally, our last article today is by Victor Dantas. And usually Victor highlights the work of others. This time, he's actually sent us a link he's going to be presenting at the Microsoft Reactor Tel Aviv, Dynamics Power Israel 2023. And he's got a couple sessions that he's going to be presenting. The one is top 7 features on Dynamics 365 2023 Wave 1 release. And the other one, which is probably going to be my favorite session, is Power Pages Deep Dive. Victor has been doing a lot of fantastic stuff. He's been doing great at not only sharing his wisdom and his knowledge with everyone in the community, but he's also celebrating the work of others in the community. So thank you, Victor, for all your hard work.
All right, everybody, that's it for today. Thank you for spending some time with us. Now, remember, if you would like us to highlight and feature the great work that you're doing in the community, whether it be blogs or articles, samples or videos or anything else, don't hesitate to tag it with the hashtag Power Platform Connects on Twitter or LinkedIn. We will be on the lookout and scour all of the social networks for your information, and we will share it. Thank you again. Have a great day. Woo!
Bye.
We have to make sure we're nice and speak nicely about the bots, because eventually they're going to rule us. Yeah. So we want them to see us as allies, right?
Enough with these sentiments.
Who loves him some flows from his head to his toes, Hugo Bernier.
Hi, and I'm Hugo. I'm the human equivalent of Monday mornings. My daylights are being saved right now, and I'm not sure I'm happy about it.
I took your hour. Sorry. Just cut.